Leonardo, while being very antagonistic towards the church and indeed towards mainstream Christianity, despite the so-called holy paintings he painted, his work does show marked Templarist symbolism. There were great Templar influences still around in Leonardo's day, possibly at a secret level. For one of the world's most famous and most familiar paintings, Leonardo's Last Supper contains an astonishing wealth of rather in-your-face esoteric symbolism, which is by no means mainstream Christian. For example, next to Jesus, there is a disciple doing that in a rather menacing way, if you look closely into Jesus' face. Jesus is quite oblivious to this, but it's that. We call this the John gesture because it's so obvious. And in the Last Supper, it's as if this disciple is saying to Jesus, "Remember John." Also in the Last Supper, Leonardo painted himself as one of the disciples towards the end of the table, turned away from Jesus. This was no accident. This wasn't just because to make a pretty composition. It was a gesture of extreme distaste for the Holy Family and for Jesus. Also in the Last Supper, sitting next to Jesus is this figure leaning like this away, which is known as the young St. John. But if you look very closely, you will notice that this St. John is in fact a woman. She has a little gold necklace, she has breasts, and the shape that she, together with Jesus, make in the composition is a giant spread-eagled M shape. And this M refers to Mary Magdalene. The Templars believed that Mary Magdalene was Jesus' lover, concubine, partner in sacred sex. This was Leonardo's way of expressing that belief. And so if you look at a painting that's supposed to be a great Christian painting of the Last Supper of Jesus, you are not going to sit there and say, but that looks like a woman, because it's supposed to be St. John. So you will see St. John. Equally, Leonardo had fun with the people who were going to see the painting, because there is an anomalous hand with a dagger in it pointing at one of the disciples' stomachs. And yet, in all our research into Leonardo, we've only ever come across a mention of this, and a very brief mention it was too, of this hand with a dagger. There is no great cup in the Last Supper in front of Jesus himself, as one would expect, and indeed in many other paintings of Last Supper there is the great cup, the chalice, what most people consider to be the Holy Grail. This is significantly missing from Leonardo's painting. Most people who think they know the painting have never seen it, because it has nothing to do with their perception of the Last Supper, so they simply don't see it.
There is a secret society in France that claims Leonardo as one of its members.